Joining us, co-host of Global Power Shifts and founder and CEO of Helmet to Heal, Suzanne Kianpour, and senior fellow of Middle East Studies, the Council on Foreign Relations, Stephen Cook. Who's more desperate for a deal right now?
The issue is that it looks like it's President Trump who is more desperate for a deal, and the Iranians recognize that he has midterms coming up. And you saw he kind of mentioned that in his remarks, where he said, oh, the Iranians think that, I need a deal, but look at what Texas results looked like and Ken Paxton. And so the Iranians are waiting it out, and they're good at that.
They've been waiting it out for 47 years. How long has it been now? I mean, these administrations last 4 or 8 years tops, and a new president comes along, and they have a new person to negotiate with.
Exactly. And living in the Middle East, when I was living in Dubai, I used to have this conversation with officials who would sort of joke about how it's good that they don't have a democracy because they're able to have consistency and to, actually do things quicker than a democracy. And so the Iranian regime sees itself in the same lens. They have a pretend democracy where people go and vote, but they're chosen who they get to vote for.
What is pushing them right now? How is the economic pain in Iran? I mean, they've just lifted the internet blackout. Does that indicate something to you?
So it's really interesting that they've lifted the internet blackout. And I was speaking to sources today. I actually talked to my cousin for the very first time since February 28th. I received a message, and I'm like getting goosebumps right now. Yeah. But the service still isn't great. But the reason I'm told why this actually happened is that there was a battle between Pezeshkian, the president, and IRGC, and the president was saying, look, this is hurting us economically. The internet blackout is making people not be able to do any jobs, digital jobs, whatever. Also, they're concerned. I think the more people don't work, the more likely they're going to take to the streets, because the more desperate they're going to get because they don't have any money.
Let me talk about bottom line. Are we going to see a deal made between Donald Trump and the Iranians anytime soon? I mean, because we've heard Donald Trump say they're on the verge of it over and over again. There was a lot of talk over the weekend about how they were close to a deal, and then suddenly we started striking them again on Monday. So is a deal imminent or is it not?
I mean, I think it's impossible to really know, because it sort of feels like when we were covering the Obama administration and the nuclear negotiations then, at that point, it felt the same, where it seemed like the Americans wanted a deal more than the Iranians. And so the Iranians recognize that. And so why are they going to make a deal without getting exactly everything that they want? But what I do think is interesting, a development, is that he's now talking about the Abraham Accords.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. So, and I'll bring you in for that, Stephen. Why bring the Abraham Accords into it, and why essentially threaten Middle East allies with get on board with these accords or I'm not going to make a deal at all?
Well, I think it's two things that are driving the president. First, his legacy from his first term is the Abraham Accords. And he came back to office saying that he was going to expand the Abraham Accords. That's the first thing. The second thing is I think he senses that this is not a very good deal and that the Iranians have him exactly where he wants them. As Suzanne pointed out, the Iranians believe that they have time on their hands, and they've demonstrated that. And I think the U.S. intelligence community agrees with them. There's a recent report in which they said the Iranians could hang on as is for the next 4 months or so. Now they're opening up the internet. There may be some ability of Iranians to do some business. So that may extend their timeline. I think the president is demanding a normalization agreement with Israel in order to make this deal look a bit better than it really is. The framework agreement that was published over the weekend gave the Iranians very significant sanctions relief. They were able to sell oil. There was significant concessions to the Iranians. If this is, in fact, what was on the table, it's not a deal that's favorable to the United States, and the president needed to make it look better than it actually is, especially after he came in for criticism from Republican members of the Senate.
Well, let me play Donald Trump talking about the Abraham Accords. We have the soundbite. Let's play it.
I would like to have the countries we were talking about, with Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, and the others, we would like to have them immediately join and Steve Witkoff is working on that with Jared and some others, but would like to have them join the Abraham Accords. It'll be historic if they do it. And I think they owe that to us. To be honest, I think, because that really would be a tremendous sign. And I think those countries owe it to us. Steve, are you going to get them to sign?
We're definitely pushing it, Mr. President.
I'm not sure we should make the deal if they don't sign.
Is this maybe a signal also to Israel, Stephen? I mean, Israel's not happy, can't be happy with Donald Trump making a deal that leaves Iran capable of hitting Israel. So could this be a message to Israel? Hey, there's something coming for you down the line. Don't just stay in line with what our decisions are right now. Don't start hitting Hezbollah harder, et cetera.
There's certainly a divergence between Israel and the United States on this issue, especially if the Lebanese front is folded into a ceasefire. So it could be the president seeking to ameliorate Israeli concerns, although he's never been really known to do that. Besides the fact the Israelis know at this point the idea of the Saudis signing on to a normalization agreement them is quite far-fetched. They're realistic to understand that after 2.5 years of war in Gaza and tens of thousands of dead, and then the destabilization of their neighborhood through Operation Epic Fury and Roaring Lion, that the Saudis are in no mood for a deal with the Israelis. As far as the Qataris are concerned, people forget that the Qataris were the first ones to open an economic interests office, Israeli interests office in the Arab world outside of Egypt and Jordan, which of course have peace treaties with them. But the Qataris have also signaled that they're only willing to deal with the Israelis on the Palestinian issue. They're not willing to have a full normalization. So I think the president is just kind of throwing this stuff out there, hoping something will stick.
Yeah, they were supposed to have they wanted a pathway to a Palestinian state that was part of the deal, and that pathway does not exist as of now. And Bibi Netanyahu would have said that he never wants it to exist. So that's a real problem. Stephen Cook, Suzanne Kianport, thank you so much. Good to see you in person.
Thank you.
Great having you. Coming up, I'm so happy you got to talk to your cousin.
Thank you.
I'm really happy to hear that.